13 Stoic psychological strategies that make people respect you instantly. Society tells you to speak up, stand out, and always be visible. But what if I told you, the people who truly hold power, the ones who command respect the moment they walk in, often say less, reveal little, and walk away without a word. Influence isn't about volume. It's about presence. And in a world obsessed with self-promotion, the quiet ones, the subtle, the intentional, often win without needing to fight. In this video, we're not talking about surface-level tactics. We'll uncover 9 psychological strategies, grounded in timeless Stoic wisdom, that will not only make you impossible to ignore, but also shift the way people respond to your very presence. Some of these strategies will challenge everything you've been told about influence. One of them is so invisible, you might already be using it, but without realizing its true power. So stay until the end, because each piece of this puzzle builds on the last. Miss one, and you'll miss the entire architecture of influence. 1. Cultivate an air of mystery. There's something undeniably magnetic about the unknown. Think about it. Who holds your attention longer? The one who shares everything all at once, or the one who gives you just enough to make you curious? In a world addicted to oversharing, the rarest commodity is restraint. Most people talk too much. They reveal their next move before they've even made the first. They post every thought, every meal, every insecurity, hoping to be seen, hoping to matter. But the Stoics understood something deeper. Mystery isn't deception. It's discipline. It's the mastery of knowing what to say when to say it, and more importantly, what to hold back. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The object of life is not to be on the side of the majority, but to escape finding oneself in the ranks of the insane." And in today's noisy world, the most radical act you can take is to say less. Not to isolate, not to play games, but to protect your inner world and invite others into it only when it matters. This doesn't mean being cold or inaccessible. On the contrary, when you speak, it should feel intentional, measured. You create contrast, because when the quiet person speaks, people lean in. They sense that every word has weight. Psychologically, this is powerful. The human brain is wired to fill in gaps. When you leave space, in your words, your expressions, your story, people become curious. They start projecting depth onto you, and that perception becomes reality. But here's the caveat. Mystery without authenticity is manipulation. This isn't about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about being so secure in who you are that you no longer need to explain yourself to everyone. And when you walk through life with that quiet confidence, when others can't quite predict you, can't fully place you, you become memorable. You become someone worth following. 2. Use the power of strategic silence. Silence often makes people uncomfortable. In a world where everyone rushes to fill the air, to make noise, to prove they belong, silence becomes a rare kind of strength. It's the calm in the storm, the pause before the strike. Have you ever been in a meeting where tension was high, voices clashing, opinions flying, and one person just waited? They didn't rush. They didn't flinch. They sat in the silence like it was their throne. And when they finally spoke, every head turned. This is the power of strategic silence. Not the silence of withdrawal or fear, but the silence of intention, of control, of poise. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But listening is only part of it. Pausing, before you speak, is where real influence begins. In negotiation, silence makes the other side speak more than they meant to. In conversation, it forces others to reflect. In conflict, it de-escalates chaos and reclaims clarity. Psychologically, silence creates tension, a subtle pressure that others feel compelled to release. And in that pressure, truth often slips out. But silence also reframes the way people see you. You're no longer just reacting. You're observing, calculating, responding with precision. You become the conductor, not just another musician in the noise. There's a reason the most powerful people in any room often speak the least. Their silence is not absence, it's a statement. It says, I don't need to prove anything. I'm watching, and when I do speak, you'll want to listen. Still, like any tool, this must be used wisely. Too much silence, and you may seem aloof. Too little, and your words lose their weight. But when balanced right, silence is not emptiness. It's presence. A silent presence that says more than words ever could. And when paired with our next strategy, one that taps into the oldest form of influence known to mankind, your voice, when used, becomes unforgettable. 3. Master persuasive storytelling. Facts inform, but stories transform. You could list 100 reasons why your idea makes sense. Or you could tell one story that makes them feel it. From ancient firesides to modern TED Talks, storytelling has always been the heartbeat of human influence. Because stories bypass logic and go straight to emotion. They don't just speak to the mind, they echo through the soul. Epictetus once said, men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them. And what is storytelling, if not offering a new lens through which to view the world? Let's say you're trying to persuade your team to take on a high-risk project. You could throw charts and forecasts at them. Or you could tell the story of a group just like them, uncertain, overwhelmed, yet bold enough to leap, and how that leap changed everything. When people see themselves in a story, it becomes their story. Their doubts become the obstacles. Their hope becomes the climax. And their decision becomes inevitable. This is the psychology of narrative. We are wired to respond to meaning, not just data. Stories give context. They create emotional stakes. They take the abstract and make it personal. But here's the key: authenticity. People can sense when a story is manipulative. They know when it's crafted for control, not connection. So the stories you tell must be real. Even if fictional, they must carry truth. The emotional truth that says, I've been where you are. I know that feeling. And here's what I've learned. When you tell stories like that, you're not just persuading, you're guiding. You're lighting a path others want to walk. And in a world full of noise, that's rare. That's powerful. And most of all, that's remembered. But persuasive storytelling is only one side of the equation. In the next strategy, we'll tap into something even more primal. Something so deeply embedded in human nature that when used ethically, it creates connection before a single word is spoken. 4. The principle of reciprocity. When giving comes from the heart, influence follows without asking. Have you ever been disarmed by a simple act of kindness? A text that came at the perfect time. A coffee left on your desk without a word. A hand on your shoulder when you couldn't even name the weight you were carrying. You may not have said much in that moment, but something inside you shifted. Because it's not the size of the gesture that moves us. It's the sincerity behind it. And that's where the principle of reciprocity begins. It's more than politeness, more than manners. It's a quiet force embedded deep in human nature. When we receive something real, something human, we feel compelled to give back. Seneca once wrote, "While we teach, we learn." True giving is never one-directional. It creates connection. It inspires trust. It draws people closer, not out of obligation, but out of resonance. And when your presence consistently brings value, be it insight, support, or simply calm, people begin to prioritize you. Not because they have to, but because something in them wants to. But here's the crucial line. If you give to get, you've already lost the essence. People can feel it. Manipulation wears a scent that's hard to hide. But authenticity? It lingers, like warmth on skin after sunlight. So give without a scoreboard. Offer without expecting. And what comes back won't just be appreciation. It will be trust, loyalty, and influence that lasts. Reciprocity is not about buying favors. It's about being the kind of presence that nourishes others without needing to be seen doing it. And when that becomes who you are, you'll never have to ask to be valued. People will feel it the moment you enter the room. But now, turn your attention inward. Because the next strategy isn't about how you treat others. It's about how you treat yourself. And that alone could determine whether others truly respect you or simply pass you by. 5. Prioritize yourself. The world reflects the value you place on yourself. Some people walk into a room, and without saying a word, the atmosphere shifts. It's not their clothes, not their title, not their voice. It's something quieter, something deeper. It's the undeniable energy of someone who knows their worth. In a world obsessed with validation, likes, applause, external approval, the Stoics held a radical truth. The greatest power you will ever hold is power over your own mind. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. True presence doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being rooted, from showing up with the quiet confidence of someone who no longer begs for a seat at the table, because they are the table. When you prioritize yourself, your growth, your peace, your boundaries, you're not being selfish. You're modeling to the world how you deserve to be treated. And here's the twist most people miss. The way others value you will almost always mirror the way you value yourself. If you're constantly overextending, if you say yes to things that deplete you, if you chase people who wouldn't even walk for you, what message are you broadcasting? But when you start protecting your time, when you invest in your growth, not to impress, but to expand, when you say no without guilt, you don't need to demand respect. You attract it. People begin to lean in, not because you shouted louder, but because you stood taller. This isn't arrogance. This isn't ego. This is alignment, the harmony between how you see yourself and how you allow the world to respond to you. And when paired with the previous strategies, mystery, silence, giving, this becomes the inner pillar that holds it all together. Because no strategy, no influence, no amount of charisma will ever replace the quiet, unshakable power of someone who values their own soul. 6. Genuinely listen to people. The rarest form of influence is to make someone feel heard. Most people don't listen. They wait. They nod, they smile, but behind their eyes, they're just waiting for their turn to speak. And yet, what every human being longs for is to be truly heard. Not fixed, not interrupted, just heard. In a world flooded with noise, the quietest gift you can give someone is your full attention. And when you give that, not out of obligation, but out of presence, you become unforgettable. Epictetus reminded us, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But real listening goes beyond the ears. It's listening with your entire being, with your eyes, with your stillness, with your willingness to not make it about you. Because when you genuinely listen, you don't just hear what's being said. You hear what isn't. The hesitation, the fear behind the humor, the truth buried beneath the words. And when someone feels seen like that, really seen, they don't forget you. They trust you. They invite you into their inner world. That's where real influence lives. Not in being the loudest voice, not in always having the answer, but in being the safest place in the room. This kind of listening builds emotional equity, a currency more valuable than attention or charm, because it's rooted in presence, and presence is rare. But this too must be genuine. Listening as a tactic will collapse under the weight of performance. People can tell when you're pretending to care. So don't listen to gain influence. Listen to give understanding. And in return, you'll receive something most people chase for years. Loyalty. trust, and a presence that is never ignored. Next, we step into a paradox: how being less available can actually make you more desired. A strategy that walks the fine line between distance and magnetism. 7. Make your presence a rarity, not a routine. There's a reason why rare gems are more valuable than common stones. What is scarce is often seen as sacred. In today's world, where everyone is constantly trying to be visible, accessible, and available, those who hold back just enough, who choose when and how they show up, are the ones who linger in people's minds long after they've left the room. It's not about being distant or aloof. It's about becoming deliberate. It's the art of showing up with intention, then stepping away with purpose. Picture a crowded gathering. Dozens of people talking, laughing, sharing. But then someone walks in. They don't stay long. They connect deeply, say little but mean everything. And then they're gone. Who do you remember most? That person feels important. Not because they tried to impress, but because their time felt precious. And in truth, it was. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This principle of scarcity isn't about playing games or withholding affection. It's about honoring your own time and energy so deeply that others begin to do the same. When you stop overextending yourself to be everywhere for everyone all the time, you shift the power dynamic. People start listening when you speak. They make space when you arrive. Because you've made it clear, your presence isn't a commodity, it's a contribution. But remember, it's a balance. Disappear entirely and you risk becoming irrelevant. Overexpose yourself and you become expected, even overlooked. So the secret lies in rhythm. Be present when it truly matters. Make those moments count. Then withdraw, not to escape, but to refill, recalibrate, and return with even more depth. Let others chase attention. You instead cultivate reverence. 8. Master your emotions. Influence begins where reactivity ends. Everyone feels. Everyone gets triggered. But not everyone responds. Some just react. And in that split-second difference lies the foundation of all personal power. Most people are ruled by their emotions. They're swept away by anger, blinded by fear, pulled under by insecurity. And in doing so, they give their power away, again and again. But the Stoics offered a different path. Epictetus said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." It sounds simple, but it's everything. Emotional mastery isn't suppression. It's sovereignty. It's the ability to witness your emotions and still choose your direction. When others yell, you breathe. When chaos rises, you remain still. Not because you're numb, but because you've trained yourself to feel without losing yourself. In any room, the calmest person often holds the most unshakable power. They don't demand control. They embody it. And in doing so, they become the anchor others instinctively gravitate toward. Want to be respected? Be the person others look to when things fall apart. But emotional mastery goes beyond holding it together. It's about reading the room, feeling the undercurrents, sensing what's not being said, responding with presence, not impulse. Because when you can name the emotion, in yourself or in others, you can begin to guide it, not with force, but with awareness. You soothe the anxious without a word. You disarm the defensive with a calm gaze. You inspire trust, not through charisma, but through consistency. And here's the quiet paradox. The more you master your emotions, the less you need to manage others. They simply begin to mirror you. Next, we explore the final strategy, one that many fear, but few realize is the ultimate declaration of inner strength, the ability to walk away. 9. Be willing to walk away. Detachment is not weakness, it's your greatest power. There's a quiet kind of strength that doesn't shout, doesn't fight, doesn't beg, it simply walks away. And in doing so, it speaks louder than any argument ever could. Most people cling to relationships, to approval, to spaces where their worth is constantly questioned. Why? Because we're taught that staying means loyalty, that enduring discomfort means commitment, that saying no is selfish. But the truth is simpler and harder. Every time you stay somewhere you've outgrown, you tell the world you don't believe you deserve better. Seneca once said, "It's not the man who is too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." And craving, especially craving validation, is the surest way to lose yourself. Walking away isn't abandonment. It's clarity. It's the realization that your energy, your presence, your peace is not up for negotiation. When you know your worth, detachment becomes natural. You don't cling because you no longer need. You choose, and that choice is what others feel. You'll notice something strange when you embody this. The moment you stop needing to be chosen, you start becoming unforgettable. Why? Because most people chase. Most people say yes to being undervalued. But the one who can walk calmly, confidently, completely becomes rare. And in human psychology, what's rare becomes revered. But let's be clear, this isn't about pride. It's not about power plays. It's about self-respect. It's about refusing to settle for rooms where your soul has to shrink to fit. Because when people see that you're willing to walk away, they understand something essential. Your presence is not a given. It's a gift. And that changes everything. 10. Own your stillness. In a restless world, your calm becomes a force of gravity. The world never stops spinning. Everyone's in a rush to react, to reply, to post, to prove. It's noise masquerading as motion. And in that endless race, stillness becomes revolutionary. Think about the people who draw you in, not because they're loud, but because they're centered. There's something magnetic about someone who doesn't flinch, who's not easily pulled by urgency, drama, or distraction. That kind of presence isn't accidental. It's cultivated, and it's powerful. The Stoics understood that calm isn't passivity. It's clarity in motion. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." When you own your stillness, you stop reacting. You begin responding, not just to others, but to life itself. In conversations, your grounded energy puts others at ease. In conflict, your calm diffuses tension. In chaos, you become a center of gravity, not by force, but by presence. And here's what few realize. People don't follow noise. They follow peace. In meetings, in relationships, in crisis, the one who stays calm, not cold but clear, earns trust. Because calmness signals inner mastery, and inner mastery is rare. Stillness is a statement. It says, I know who I am. I know what I stand for. I'm not here to prove. I'm here to hold. And in a world addicted to speed and spectacle, that kind of presence, it becomes unforgettable. 11. Be radically consistent. Inconsistency confuses people. Consistency earns their trust. You don't need to be the most talented, or the smartest, or even the most charismatic. But if you're consistent in how you show up, how you speak, how you carry your values, you become someone others can count on. And in a world full of contradictions and shifting masks, that kind of reliability becomes rare. Be the person whose words match their actions, whose energy feels the same, whether they're speaking to a stranger or a friend, who doesn't just perform confidence, but embodies integrity. Stoicism teaches us that virtue isn't an act. It's a practice. Epictetus reminded his students, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it, because when you're radically consistent in your behavior, your tone, your responses, people feel safe around you. Not comfortable safe. There's a difference. Comfort can come from charm, but safety? It comes from character. And here's what most people don't see. Consistency builds invisible credibility. Over time, it compounds like interest in a bank of trust. One small, daily choice at a time. When you're unpredictable, people pull back. They question you. But when your presence feels grounded, stable, dependable, they lean in. Because in a world full of mixed signals, you become the signal that cuts through. 12. Detach from approval. Freedom begins when you no longer need to be understood. Most people live inside invisible cages, not built from walls, but from approval, from the fear of being misunderstood, from the need to be liked. They edit themselves in real time. Should I say this? Will they judge me? Do they think I'm too much or not enough? And in doing so, they shrink. They play safe. And worst of all, they become forgettable. But here's the truth. Approval is addictive. The more you get, the more you need. And the more you chase it, the further you drift from who you really are. The Stoics didn't seek applause. They sought alignment. Seneca wrote, "What is the point of being admired if you despise yourself?" When you detach from needing approval, something incredible happens. You start telling the truth. You say what you mean, not to provoke, but to stand in your own clarity. You stop performing and start being. And ironically, that's when people start listening. Because people are drawn to those who don't flinch under scrutiny, who don't fold for applause, who are okay with being misunderstood because they understand themselves. But this isn't about arrogance. It's about sovereignty, the quiet confidence of someone who doesn't outsource their worth. When you stop needing to be validated, you become unshakable. And in a world of social mirrors, that kind of self-possession, it doesn't just attract attention. It commands respect. 13. Live by design, not by default. Influence flows from those who know where they're going. Most people don't live, they drift. They wake up, scroll, react, repeat. Their time is owned by demands. Their identity shaped by trends. Their purpose, vague, if not forgotten. And the most dangerous part? They think this is normal. But Stoicism was never about living on autopilot. It was about waking up, choosing how to live, moment by moment, based on values, not impulses. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary?" That one question alone, asked daily, could change your entire life. When you start living by design, everything shifts. You don't just respond, you lead. You don't chase attention, you own your time. You stop waiting for life to hand you meaning. You create it. And the irony? People follow those who clearly know where they're going. Not because they shout about it, but because every step they take is intentional. To live by design means you build rituals that align with your soul. You protect your energy like it's sacred. You say no, not out of fear, but out of focus. And yes, not to please, but to honor your path. The influence you radiate from that place, it's not loud, it's not forced, it's felt in the room, in the silence, in the decisions you don't explain. Because a life designed with courage speaks for itself. Conclusion: influence begins within, not out there. You've just walked through 9 powerful strategies, not tricks, not hacks, but inner recalibrations rooted in Stoic wisdom and human psychology. And if you've listened closely, you'll notice a pattern. None of these strategies are about domination. They're about alignment with yourself, with your values, with the quiet strength that no one can give you and no one can take away. You don't need to chase influence. When you become someone of depth, of presence, of principle, influence begins to chase you. So here's what I invite you to remember. Mystery doesn't make you distant. It makes you intentional. Silence isn't weakness, it's leverage. Storytelling isn't performance, it's connection. Giving isn't a tactic, it's a reflection of who you are. Prioritizing yourself isn't selfish, it's sacred. Listening isn't passive, it's transformational. Scarcity isn't absence, it's value. Emotional mastery isn't control, it's freedom. And walking away, that's not giving up. That's knowing when you've already given enough. If you truly embody these principles, not only will people notice you, they'll remember you, they'll respect you, and more importantly, you'll respect yourself. So now I ask you, which of these resonated most deeply? Which one are you ready to not just understand, but live? Drop it in the comments. I want to hear from you. If this video lit a fire within you, don't let it fade. Share it with someone who needs to hear this today. And if you're serious about mastering yourself before trying to master the world, subscribe, turn on the bell, because this isn't a one-time inspiration. This is a lifelong path. And the next video, it won't just open your eyes, it'll sharpen your soul.